In the new Mortal Kombat game, there's confirmed to be a new timeline where a bunch of things have changed, like the fact that Kitana and Mileena are now biological twin sisters. But because the game isn't out yet and we don't know everything from that new timeline, for today's video, where I'm taking Disney villains and turning them into Mortal Kombat characters, I'm using a blend of lore that we know from the new game, as well as stuff from all the old timelines as well. And I was super close to doing Avatar: The Last Airbender and Legend of Korra characters in Mortal Kombat instead for today. So you know what, if this video gets 6,000 likes in its first 2 weeks, I will commit to doing that video as well. Let's see how much you all want more Mortal Kombat stuff. But for now, Disney villains in Mortal Kombat. Let's go!
Hit like if you want, subscribe if you feel like, but either way, enjoy the show.
The mighty warrior Liu Kang wanted to create a more peaceful world, one where combat was an option for those who craved it, but not an outright necessity. In utilizing the Hourglass of the Keeper of Time, Kronika, he was able to rewrite history and create a new timeline that certainly had potential for more peace as he craved, but also created unexpected alterations in reality, and even made new combatants that would threaten the peace of this new, altered era. One of these threats was Maleficent Moors, who had once been a fierce fighter training in the US Army alongside Sonya Blade. The two were even fairly close friends, but Maleficent had always had a grim fascination with the magic of other, darker realms. Maleficent had been born with some basic magical abilities, but she always wanted to learn to harness them further, and she believed that the place she could achieve this was the dark and supernatural dimension, the Netherrealm. She spent much of her spare time learning about ways that humans could access the Netherrealm. Sonya never discouraged this fascination, simply thinking it to be an odd quirk of her friend and ally, and that she'd never actually find a way to go there. But she was wrong. Maleficent eventually confided in her friend when she did finally discover a way to travel to the Netherrealm, and Sonya heavily discouraged her. She told Maleficent that she didn't know what would happen to her if she went there, or if she could even ever return, but Maleficent didn't listen. As close as she was with Sonya, their friendship wasn't as important to her as finally achieving a lifelong goal. Maleficent ignored her friend's warnings and traveled to the Netherrealm, where she instantly felt her abilities increase. Her own magic seemed to spawn from this realm originally, and every second she was there made her feel more complete. While in the realm, she even gained the ability to transform herself into a flying, monstrous beast. It was more than Maleficent could have ever hoped for. She would quickly even discover how to transport herself from this realm back to Earth, returning with her magic greatly amplified and claiming it could be a massive asset to her in battles alongside Sonya. But Sonya slowly lost faith in Maleficent more and more after that day. She became cruel and would use her magic not only to disarm or defeat opponents, but to torture them, and she seemed to get a sadistic joy out of using her magic to harm people. Eventually, their superiors noticed this as well, and Maleficent was dishonorably discharged from service. She would then spend much more time in the Netherrealm, and would see Sonya less and less, but still considered her a friend, despite a clear rift growing between them. At one point, they'd even be out of contact for a full 2 years. When Maleficent realized this, she went to visit Sonya, and was astounded to see that in that time, Blade had had a daughter named Cassie. Maleficent felt hurt that Sonya hadn't found a way to tell her about this clearly exciting news, but worse still, when Maleficent asked to meet the child, Sonya refused. She stated that she couldn't trust Maleficent anymore, and that her time in the Netherrealm was corrupting her and making her cruel and unpredictable. And further still, Sonya wished to do all she could to keep her daughter from going down a violent and dangerous path like the two of them had in their military days. But Maleficent would ensure that Sonya wouldn't get that wish. Feeling betrayed by her so-called friend, Maleficent cursed Sonya's daughter, stating that if Earthrealm ever entered into mortal combat with another realm, Cassie would have to enter the tournament, or the curse would slowly eat away at her life force and kill her. At the time, Sonya had no idea when or if Earthrealm ever would enter into the fabled tournament for the realms, but regardless, she now saw that if she didn't train her daughter to fight, to be prepared, then if Mortal Kombat did come, Cassie would surely be killed. Sonya would never forgive Maleficent for this curse, but would reluctantly do what she had to ensure Cassie became a fighter capable of taking on any warrior from any realm. Another combatant to arise in the emergence of the new timeline was Ursula, the Sea Witch of Outworld. She once was the sister of the Dragon King of Outworld, Onaga, and gained influence and power as he did, often fighting alongside her brother. Unfortunately, both their rises to might ended when the warrior Shao Kahn killed Onaga and took over as emperor himself. Understandably, Ursula was livid and attempted to kill Shao Kahn, desiring to take over the role of empress for herself and continuing her brother's legacy. But as fierce and strong as she was not enough to defeat Shao Kahn. He was also unable to kill her though, so she was able to flee, lurking in the watery shadows of Outworld, concocting a new plan for revenge against Shao Kahn to take his throne from him. Years passed, and she gained strength in hiding, making deals with beings who sought power and were willing to sacrifice things to the Sea Witch in order to get it. Many of them even being tricked into sacrificing their own life force to her, strengthening her further. Her own might grew, and eventually she became tempted to try her hand at defeating Shao Kahn again. Until she got a better idea. Shao Kahn had daughters that she realized may prove useful to Ursula. The Emperor's twins were named Mileena and Kitana, with the latter born seconds before her sister, making Mileena the heir to the throne of Outworld. Unfortunately for Mileena, the people of Outworld doubted her as a suitable leader, believing her to be too impulsive and brash, while her sister Kitana was more collected and level-headed. Upon observing the sisters further, using her magic to keep her concealed, Ursula learned an even more useful little fact about Mileena. She had the dreaded Tarkat disease. This would slowly turn her more and more into a savage mutant, and surely, if the illness took full effect, the people of the realm would never see Mileena as a worthy ruler. This was a perfect inroad for Ursula. She managed to get Mileena alone and tell her that the Sea Witch could use her magic to hold back the spread of the disease. However, in exchange, Mileena would have to win the next Mortal Kombat tournament to further prove herself as a worthy ruler of Outworld. If she lost, then Mileena's life force would belong to Ursula. It was not a good deal for Mileena by any stretch of the imagination, but Ursula knew how impulsive the young warrior was and was not at all surprised when Kahn's daughter took the deal. Not long after, Mortal Kombat was announced, with Kahn setting his sights on overtaking Earthrealm. Both his daughters entered the tournament, but Ursula surely wasn't going to leave Mileena's loss up to chance. She'd go to Earthrealm and do what she could to enhance their own warriors. Not out of any compassion for their realm and the threat of it being overtaken, but to ensure someone among their combatants could defeat Mileena, granting Ursula her life force and significant leverage over Shao Kahn. Though, she may have been overestimating how much Kahn truly cared for his daughters. The leader of the Hun clan on Earthrealm, despite his immense might, was a fairly simple man. Shan Yu only craved battle and further opportunities to test his might and that of his warriors who fell in line behind him. Thus far, no forces on Earth that the Hun clan had gone up against had been able to stop them, which seemed desirable, but Shan Yu was growing bored. He wanted a true challenge. And he'd eventually find one as a fabled, mythical group of warriors finally stepped out of the shadows they'd hid behind for so long. Shan Yu had heard whispers and tales of the Lin Kuai, but had long believed them to be nothing more than a folktale, claiming them to be the alleged protectors of the realm. But eventually, they came under the leadership of the warrior Sub-Zero, who decided to bring the group out of hiding, deeming that they could be of more use to the world by rising up to lead it. Shan Yu's scouts investigated further as the Lin Kuai began to reveal themselves to the world, and found that they did indeed have warriors in their ranks of incredible strength and unexpected skills. Some could create and project daggers of ice like their leader, some could command fire, and some could even channel and manipulate smoke. Everything Shan Yu learned about these Lin Kuai warriors made him feel more and more as though he were being directly invited to challenge and defeat them. As the Lin Kuei started expanding into new territories, Shan Yu made his first move, attacking one of their outposts with his Han clan and slaying all but one of the Lin Kuei on sight. He told the sole remaining warrior to return to his leader and tell Sub-Zero to send his strongest warriors to try and defeat Shan Yu and the Han clan. If he didn't, they'd continue to scourge the Lin Kuei's expansion and destroy every outpost they attempted to create, slowly making their way to the Lin Kuei palace to finish them off. He continued his rampage, fighting every Lin Kuei warrior that came his way and approaching ever closer to the home of the Lin Kuei. Eventually, he even learned of the biggest troop of Lin Kuei yet coming his way en route to their temples. He could have used this information to evade them, trekking around them and making it to the home base, with even fewer warriors there to protect it. But Shan Yu refused to change paths, stating that he wanted to face them. Though this would be the first time his warriors would take a significant loss against the Lin Kuei. They marched through a snowy mountainous pass and soon came within sight of the Lin Kuei, farther down the mountains. Shan Yu's men began their battle cry and charged, but instead of the Lin Kuei charging back, a single warrior stepped forth. It was a young woman adorned in similar attire to the Lin Kuei's current leader, and she was known to them simply as Frost. Summoning an immense control over the cold, she caused the snowy mountains on either side of the charging Han clan to crumble, starting a massive avalanche. The Lin Kuei fled from the path of the rumbling snow, but the Han clan, much closer to where it started, had no time. Nearly their entire fighting force was overtaken by tons and tons of rushing snow, killing dozens of the warriors and leaving many more injured. Shan Yu, of course, survived, and eventually dug his way out of the ice and snow. This surely was a setback, but just invigorated his fighting spirit even more. He became more determined than ever to reach the Lin Kuei palace and defeat their leader, but even more so to go hand to hand with the woman who had just managed to wipe out so many of his finest warriors. She was a combatant truly worthy of his attention. Now, Ursula was not the only person secretly gunning for the throne of Outworld. Shao Kahn had many advisors and sorcerers working for him, but for a time, his closest was a man named Jafar. Jafar rose through the ranks of Shao Kahn's forces incredibly and suspiciously quickly. This was due to the fact that, while most knew Jafar was a powerful sorcerer, few realized that he was specifically adept at swaying the decisions of those around him with the serpent-like scepter he carried. He was even able to sway Shao Kahn in many instances to make decisions that would more so benefit Jafar than the realm as a whole. Jafar was constantly seeking more power. He wanted to be the ruler of Outworld, but beyond that, he wanted to be the ruler of every realm, to become as mighty as a god, if not outright genuinely become one. But this would have to come in phases. His sights were first set on the Emperor of Outworld. In this altered timeline, Shao Kahn was actually less inherently inclined to conquer other realms, but Jafar used his magic of manipulation to goad the Emperor into going after Earthrealm, challenging them to mortal combat. His hope was actually that Shao Kahn would lose, and that the people of Outworld would begin to doubt his worthiness as a leader, and possibly that he'd even be weakened in the battles. Further still, Jafar had cursed Khan's firstborn daughter Mileena years before to inflict further doubt in Khan's bloodline. Yes, Jafar was in fact the one to give Mileena the Tarkat disease that Ursula would eventually use to her own advantage. Once enough doubt was inflicted upon the Emperor's family, Jafar's plan was to create an uprising against them and take over command of Outworld. But things shifted when the Mortal Kombat tournament began. When conflicts with Earthrealm started, Jafar sent his fateful, shape-shifting servant Iago to learn all he could about the skills, forces, and artifacts Earthrealm had access to, and the little man returned with incredibly useful information. Iago had learned of the remarkably powerful artifact that was the Hourglass, the very one used by Liu Kang to reset history. If Jafar could gain access to this, he could rewrite history himself, granting him with all the power he desired, and making him instantly the ruler over every realm. But for this to be possible, he'd need to change his plans and have Outworld win the Mortal Kombat tournament. hopefully even having someone slay Liu Kang. He could, of course, have enhanced the powers of any warrior already sent from Outworld to compete, but Jafar felt he needed someone new, someone he could easily manipulate into fighting for him and gaining him access to the Hourglass quicker. He found his own champion in an unexpected place. A street rat bounty hunter of Outworld by the name of Erron Black may have seemed to many like little more than a common criminal, but he was someone Jafar had kept an eye on for some time, as the young man had no allegiances and was an incredibly skilled fighter and gunslinger who easily managed to avoid being captured for any of his many crimes. Jafar went to Erron Black and convinced him to fight in Mortal Kombat, pretending to be another warrior from Outworld, but in truth to be out looking for the Hourglass. Jafar would further enhance Black's fighting prowess with his magic in the hopes that he could even defeat Liu Kang in combat, and if he did, when Jafar then rewrote history with the power of the glass, he'd make Erron Black a king with all the riches he could ever desire. Did Jafar actually intend to give Black anything? Only time could truly tell.
Man, I was super overdue to get back to more Mortal Kombat stuff, and I'm very happy with this, though I still might think that my old episodes where I turned famous animated characters into Mortal Kombat characters and famous indie video game characters into Mortal Kombat, those might actually hold up better than this one. I'll link both of those in the cards, you might want to check them out if you enjoyed this. Also, the inks and high-resolution art from this episode are up on Patreon now, and there will be a Design Notes episode coming out on Wednesday, where I talk about my writing and art process for this video. But also, I'd love more suggestions for other stuff to do with Mortal Kombat. Again, that Avatar video. We get this to 6,000 likes in 2 weeks. Definitely doing that one, but maybe there's some other cool stuff you got in mind. And besides that, that's all for today, except of course for ending this video on some kind of positive or inspiring note. And the thought I want to leave people with today is a quote from someone named Sylvester McNutt, who said that overthinking is the biggest waste of human energy. Trust yourself, make a decision, and gain more experience. There is no such thing as perfect. You can't think your way into perfection. Just take action. I specifically love that one because I used to be a notorious overthinker, and still am sometimes, but I highly recommend taking that advice to heart. I hope that's inspiring, I love you all, and I'll see you in the next episode on Monday. Goodbye.